Now this takes us into the weight room. So again, you have to understand from my lens, I don't want to spend all day training, because if you spend all day training, you can't spend any time recovering. So training economy and efficiency is very important to me as a coach and now a performance director. I look for global transfer. I want to be able to choose exercises that I know if we are going to talk about the probabilities of transfer, I want to know the ones that probably have the highest probability. And that's why the weightlifting derivatives are something that I've pushed for and advocated for over 2 decades now. On that note, I don't believe anything is too hard to coach. I just think some people are lazy. So if it makes you feel uncomfortable, hit the books. So again, the weightlifting derivatives overload the straight shortening cycle. It allows me to use consistent cues from the track to the weight room, and it also allows for task-specific hypertrophy, because folks, muscular drag is real, to quote Dr. Mike Stone. Before I get into the derivatives, the bread and butter outside of the mid-thigh pull of any good program should be the barbell back squats. We use a high bar squat. We use a full range of motion. During the season, or as we get through more specific times of the year, we may do full range of motion on our warm-ups and warm-down sets. We may use concentric-only work sets, and sometimes we flip. We'll go really heavy concentric-only third squats to get a heavy stimulus, and then maintain higher velocities through a full range of motion with submaximal loads. So again, you can be very creative with the back squat. You can see here, Ryota Ito is a Japanese bobsledder in the bright orange shirt. He's squatting with maximal intent. Love it. And we can also see that we have another bobsledder performing Anderson front squats. This would be typically on a Friday where we're only concentric only, so we can modify and manipulate the volume load and allow for the recovery to be driven into the weekend. So just some vertical pressing progressions going into the derivatives. Like all of us know that upper body lifts, as far as your push press and your push jerk, are actually derivatives. They're part of the weightlifting menu. So, there's a way that you can actually progress here. So early on, to get more of like a power endurance stimulus, we'll start with a squat to press. So that same Japanese bobsledder is performing full range of motion. There's not a stoppage of the bar. The bar does not slow down, so he's using the momentum from the squat to generate the speed into the bar. We'll go from that. We'll go into a push press. Katie Eberling, a multi-world championship medalist in bobsled, performing the push press here. I'd like to see a little bit better timing. The cue that I like to talk about is the heels should snap to the ground when the elbow locks. So I want to see coordination between when the athlete finishes tall. I don't want to see the heel snap and then the bar finishing. I want to see that happen at the same time. So I want to see that just complete aggression going into the bar. So they actually push. Then you have a push jerk where you're actually going to catch it in a third squat position, as you can see by Josh Williamson in that third video. Heavier loads, this is going to be more of like your strength speed stimulus, SPP, going into the season and during season. Early on, I had an athlete ask me this question this past week. Why are we doing shrugs from a bent knee position? We talk about the force, the peak force or athletic stance position that we test the mid-thigh pull in. I believe that, the clean grip shoulder shrug. So this is an Australian bobsledder. In the first video, you can see he kind of gets off balance on rep 3, but then he again gets back to that tripod where his little toe, big toe, and heel stay connected. And I always say use the shoes in all your lifts. The first video is the clean grip shrug, so it's in that bent knee position, but it's an isometric condition over a knee angle that's specific to sprinting. So that's why I like it so much. Is number one, you have postural integrity, so you're having to, again, isometric condition at the knee, so relevant to sprinting. Number two, torso strengthening, as far as what we're doing here with the clean grip shrug. The counter movement shrug is an exercise I would use late in the training year, or if an athlete's not able to turn the bar over for a myriad of reasons, injury, restrictions, etc., we can get an overload of the stretch shortening cycle there. So we've got to be able to teach it as a shrug before we can go into a counter movement shrug. So you start tall, you descend into that same knee angle, and then pop the shrug, drive off the ground. So again, the elbows will bend as a result of the velocity being, just forcing the arms to bend as you curl the knuckles in to keep the bar close, let the knurling pull the shirt up, or other cues that I use. But you can see they're staying very tall and rigid, just like you would want to see in a sprint. As far as, mid-thigh pull, so as far as the other derivatives, we can see Lachlan Reedy, again, the Australian bobsledder, he's performing the mid-thigh pull, same knee angle. So again, everything, if you teach it early on in the GPP, the athlete retains it, and then guess what? If you use the isometric mid-thigh pull, there's very little to lose in the way of familiarity. They already understand the lift, so they know how to attack it in an isometric condition, so your data actually is actionable. So you can see we have the mid-thigh pull, which loads can get up to about 130, 140% of your power clean maximum, relatively speaking. So I use this in season because it retains strength in times where I can't utilize full range of motion if we're close to a game or close to a competition. Again, it's task specific. And then we move to the second video, mid-thigh clean. I'll typically introduce this as a down set or 2 or 3 down sets from the mid-thigh pull. So that way it become a concentrated effort in the next block. So again, the mid-thigh clean is taught as down sets to the mid-thigh pull. So it's starting strength. You've got to be able to generate force quickly from a static position. And so without saying too much, I would say that sounds like something you've got to be able to do in football. So I'll just leave it there. You can see a clean pull from the knee, or actually a clean from the knee. So that's Ryuta Ito, that Japanese bobsledder. He understands the positions from the mid-thigh. So again, we can progress him down the thigh. I'd like to see him be able to lean over the bar just a little bit more. Again, going further down allows more displacement, allows more velocity to be able to produce. We can see the power clean. Early on in the GPP, I will pair a clean pull to knee to strengthen the glutes and the low back. And again, you can be very heavy on this. You can go 120 to 130% of your power clean, relatively speaking, here. So pushing the knees back, staying tight, staying over the bar, knuckles down. So you see the clean pull to knee. We use that for a 3x5 early on in the GPP. I'll pair that with a clean grip shoulder shrug. So it's partitioning and putting things together so they meet in the middle and create the power clean later. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I'll remind you later on the last slide. There is no need for you to have to be able to teach the power clean in one day. If you choose the derivatives out and you allocate them over your blocks correctly, guess what? The athletes will know how to clean when you need to use the clean. So again, a lot of people go, well, I don't use the power clean because I can't teach a group of 40 people in one day. I'm not sure where I ever read the manual of coaching where it said you had to teach the power clean to 40 people in one day. Unless you know of a book I don't know about, you can do that through your training and choosing exercises accordingly. It's like sending your kids to learn how to play the guitar. You don't expect them to learn one song the first day of guitar practice. You know what I mean? Like, they learn a few chords, and that's what we're doing here. It's no different than sending your kids to piano or guitar practice or lessons. You can see the clean pull to knee gives way to the clean pull. Again, pushing the knees back, staying over the bar, driving the knees through. That's Adrian Adams. It's not a perfect clean pull, but just some variety here as far as athletes and being patient in how you teach it. Just being, again, the athlete, as they transition the knees or the bar past the knees, they need to be patient in opening up that torso. What I like to see is the torso and the hips open up at the same time. The knees, again, are coming back through the bar. Those joints work in harmony. And then you can, again, witness that with Josh Williamson in the very last slide in the light blue shirt as he performs a power clean. Again, I'd like to see him be a little bit more patient and jump and shrug with the bar higher on the thigh. That's why he catches it forward. But again, not a bad job for a bobsledder rookie when we first videotaped this. Just throwing this out here, it doesn't really fit derivatives, but I get questions a lot about how to employ these tactics. As far as AEL, I will use that as far as an advanced tactic with, I would call our seasoned veterans or people who are strong enough to get something out of this. This is allowing you to get overload of the first rep, so that way you have higher power outputs, and I hate that term immensely, but you can actually have higher bar speeds as a result with the first set or the first rep being potentiated with that extra load on the bar. When I first started doing AEL, I would overload every rep. So we would do like a 3x5 and we would AEL on every rep, and thank God to John Waggle and the work that he did in his dissertation. So now we can just overload the first rep and it does a better job. So old dogs can learn new tricks. You can see that, we do a lot of jump squats. So, I would pair like an AEL squat session with a static jump, maybe around 15% of the workload as the down sets. Again, you're surfing the curve even in your squats, super maximal all the way down to sub-maximal with higher velocities. So again, you should be surfing the curve not only with derivatives, you should surf the curve with exercise, like within a session, high speeds, high forces in the same day, especially if you're sprinting and lifting. And the other thing is, if you use warm-up sets and you use warm-down sets in addition to your work sets, you've surfed the curve there. So like you've created a robust athlete in one day. Then you have heavy and light days within a microcycle. Now you've surfed the curve there. So it's really cool that it's fractals, to quote Aaron Cunanan. Everything on the at-large in the 30,000 view, you can actually see at the 10-foot view if you are doing your programming correctly. So again, surfing the curve is really a default outcome of really good planning. So the last picture is Adrian Adams again. So, like if you have an athlete who is restricted because of an injury, this is where an isometrics, overcoming, or yielding are going to come into play to maintain neural drive. You can use this again at kind of like, let's say, 3 average positions, and everything in between of those ranges of motion will be taken care of. Also, you can use isometrics as a potentiating tool for normal range of motion exercises. So you can be very creative how you use that too.